Welcome back to Great Day St. Louis on this rainy Tuesday. Turns out everyone in St. Louis lives in a flood zone. Did you realize that? But how much do you know about your zone? MSD Project Clear wants you to really understand your flood risk and your options, and that's why they've launched the Know Your Zone initiative. Today, perfect timing for this. Nicole Spencer is here to tell us more about it. Okay, so what do you mean by Know Your Zone?
So Know Your Zone means learn which flood zone you live in. There are high, moderate, and low risk flood zones. So we want people to visit knowyourzone.org, use the interactive flood zone tool, and learn which flood zone they live in so they can decide if they need something like flood insurance to protect themselves during those heavy rain events.
So you're also saying there's really nowhere around this area that is not it's not impossible to flood.
Yeah, that's correct. Everybody, if it rains where you live, it can flood where you live. That's the best way to put it. So no matter where you live, you can experience that flooding, and you don't want to wait too late to have something like flood insurance to protect yourselves during those heavy rain events.
These zones, are they by streets? Are they regional? Or could I be in a different zone than someone in my same neighborhood, but just at a different end in the hill?
Yeah, it varies everywhere you go. Definitely in the same neighborhood, you could have different flood zones. As I mentioned, high, moderate, or low risk. And those flood zones change so often. You know, at MSD, we've seen so many places that's flooding in the past 5 years that have never flooded before. And so we want people to understand that the risk is always there. The risk is always high, honestly, no matter which kind of flood zone you live in. And so do what you need to do, protect yourselves. Don't wait till it's too late.
I'm glad you brought that up because it feels like anecdotally, I've heard a lot of people, even people in my neighborhood say, well, gosh, for 20 years we owned this house. We didn't need a sump pump, and now the basement is flooded 3 times in the last year. So you're saying things have changed and they can continue to change.
That's correct. I mean, we continue to see overland flooding happening more and more often. You know, we continue to have these crazy heavy rain events, these 100-year, 500-year rain events. And so because we continue to see that, we don't expect that it's going to change anytime soon. And so again, we want people to just be educated, take the information, decide if they need flood insurance, and then take action.
Gosh, and that flooding is expensive. Did you know that flooding causes an average of $5 billion in damage every year across the U.S.? A lot of people, as we mentioned, don't realize that they're in a flood zone. So what can you actually do to protect yourself? I mean, if you can't move out of a flood zone, what are your options?
Yeah, so the Federal Emergency Management Agency has what's called the National Flood Insurance Program. And so that's how people get flood insurance. You know, a lot of people have this common misperception that it's offered through their homeowner's policy. It's not, and a lot of people get into difficult situations with that. So visit the flood zone map. Learn which flood zone you live in. If you think you need flood insurance, go to FEMA's National Flood Insurance Program and then get flood insurance to protect yourself.
So this would be almost supplemental to your homeowner's insurance, which might cover hail damage to your roof or a fire. Because I always hear these horror stories of someone saying, we just finished our basement, the basement flooded, and it's not covered by insurance. But you're saying if you pick up this additional insurance through FEMA, that flooding could be covered.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. See, there's a lot to understand here. So what about for the folks who maybe are lucky and they live in one of those low risk zones? Does that mean like they don't have to worry about it? They can sleep better at night?
No, they can't actually. Because even if you live in a low zone, again, like I said, we still continue to see those instances where heavy rain is falling where it's never fallen before. And as I mentioned, I think a lot of people also, you know, believe if they don't live next to a river, creek, or stream, some body of water, then they're not going to have any issues. But we see places that don't live next to one of those, that live on an elevated land and still have flooding. So again, that's why this is so important to consider and to take action on.
Okay, anything else that people can do to have a better understanding of their zone, or just on a day like this when we know, okay, for the next couple of days, we're gonna get a lot of rain?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So there are some things that people can do around their homes. Anything that you can do to clear out the path to let water flow where it's going to flow. So if you have those gutters that are filled with leaves, like sweep those out if you can. If you have window wells that have a lot of debris around them, clear that out. If you see a storm inlet on your street, that is something, you know, that we've put in. If you're able to safely kind of kick the leaves or the trash away from that, just allowing that water to flow naturally, because the more path you can open for it to flow naturally, the less of a chance you have of it coming into your home and causing some issues.
Okay, Nicole, this was so helpful. I've learned a lot today. I hope you learned a lot as well, but you can even learn more by going to knowyourzone.org. They have a lot more information there. You can connect with MSD Project Clear at MSD Project Clear on Facebook, Instagram, and X as well. Matt.
Got to know that zone, ladies. Thank you so much. Really important information there.